All right, everybody, welcome back to Room AB. I want to thank our sponsor for this segment. Hanabyte is a boutique cloud security consultancy with deep engineering and compliance experience. They provide a unique people-first, white-glove approach to solving client challenges and excel at providing solutions for clients in highly regulated industries. I want to introduce Jonathan Walker, who's going to talk about engineering chaos to secure cloud foundations. Welcome him to the stage.
Hello everybody, my name's Jonathan Walker and I'll be presenting today on engineering chaos to secure cloud foundations. So I wanted to start out my presentation with something that everybody in the security industry can relate to in one way, shape, or another. And if you're struggling because you're a cloud security practitioner, feel free to replace this with a developer accidentally committing a secret in GitHub, or someone exposing an Elasticsearch cluster, or something as trivial as creating a new public S3 bucket. So in this scenario, which is based on a true story, is on day one, it's every security professional's first set of things when they come in. They need to set up monitoring controls, technical controls, and security awareness training. And in this scenario, that is exactly what happened. They set those up, let the entire organization, here's how you not make some of these common mistakes. Now, after a few years of those technical controls eroding due to migration and technical debt and moving to vendors for monitoring solution and back to native solutions, you sometimes lose those capabilities over time without seeing that bigger picture. And someone accidentally creates a new public doc that says they accidentally took 2 donuts from the break room instead of just 1, even though it said to only take 1. And it was highly sensitive information, and someone reports it and say, hey, this is public, and you go, hey, wait a second, why didn't I catch that? I had alerts set up, this is a solved problem, why did this occur again? So I really wanted to talk about how can we prevent similar occurrences like this from happening in the future, and what can we do as security professionals to be able to constantly stay on top of all of our existing technical and monitoring controls. So who am I? My name's Jonathan Walker, and I have about a decade of experience in cloud infrastructure, pretty much Kubernetes, AWS, Golang, Terraform, anything along those lines. I'm also relatively new for public speaking, so if I give some ums here and things like that, just be aware of that. One of my favorite blog posts that I did publicly was performing internet-wide scans with nuclei using Lambda in parallel. Great blog. And if you ever haven't used nuclei against your own infrastructure, I strongly recommend that you do. I was also an infrastructure engineering manager at Tinder for the last 6 years, and I am now bootstrapping my own security businesses, focusing on realistic security exercises. So what is the current state of cloud security? I've told you through a scenario that a lot of people go through, but I just want to re-emphasize that this keeps occurring within our industry. And this research just got released last month, and it was absolutely fantastic, where someone decided to go through all public AMIs, and they had about 3 million. They reduced it down to about 27 million of possible accidental exposure. They found over 121 valid access keys, 20 root access keys, and over 10 GitHub and GitLab tokens. Public AMIs is something we've known about for a very long time, and it's something that we see as a solved problem, but yet it's still occurring within our industry, and something we need to watch out for. Anyway, the QR code is at the top right. It's a great read. Another favorite resource of mine that I reference frequently is breaches.cloud. It is a great repository of recent high-profile breaches that go into the technical details of how they occurred. And I just wanted to grab a few down of some common AWS scenarios that occur and just sort of see what the current landscape is of breaches at this time. Back in 2016, there was a hard-coded secret in a public GitHub repo. That's something that continues to happen to this day. A publicly writable S3 bucket that led to executing of cryptojacking JavaScript, a legacy EC2 instance that was once forgotten about that was used to exfiltrate an RDS snapshot from the account. And another one was a really good one in which they kept all the AWS secrets in a single account with improper resource-based policies to limit who can access them, allowing for mass retrieval of some of the company's most sensitive secrets. Also, one of my favorite blog posts, an exposed Jenkins box that led to the exposure of the no-fly list. If you've never read that, I strongly recommend that you do. And another one was exposure of access keys in the source code of their website that allowed them to download the entire context of all their S3 buckets in their account. So what next? Why did I go over this current state of, breaches and some common scenarios that I go through? We've all sort of, think we've solved these problems, but they keep coming back time and time again. So I wanted to come up with a mechanism to be able to help you with these situations in the future. So today I'm open sourcing Cloud Commotion, which is a tool that essentially allows you to perform in-house security chaos engineering exercises. As far as I'm aware, this is the largest repository of vulnerable cloud infrastructure, strictly in Terraform, that you can modify and adjust to best fit your needs. You can create a list of scenarios for you to go through, and in the default scenarios, there's a list of 3 very common ones that you can sort of apply to your own infrastructure and see how your team responds. Do you get the appropriate alerts? How does your team respond in going through the logs, et cetera, and go through them? And these scenarios are primarily something that focus on business impactful security exercises and not just, CSPM findings that would perhaps be less impactful, such as, rotate keys or something along those lines. So what can you simulate as part of this tool? So some of the scenarios that I go over come close to my heart because I've spent many hours and hours and hours trying to come up with detections or mechanisms in order to be able to identify these. And one of them is takeovers and takeovers and takeovers. I have just about every takeover scenario I can think of that is within there, such as name server delegation takeover, which is a very interesting scenario where you point name servers to another hosted zone and another AWS account. You delete that hosted zone, and any attacker can take over the entire zone by creating one. And it sort of uses Terraform to spin up that scenario and delete the hosted zone, so it leaves you in a state vulnerable to takeover to see if you can detect it. Another one is second-order subdomain takeovers, where it creates a CloudFront distribution with a HTML page referencing a script tag to a bucket that no longer exists, simulating that recent breach that I had mentioned earlier. An AWS EIP takeover where there's a DNS record pointing to an IP that no longer exists, and third-party takeovers like WordPress and other third-party services. S3 subdomain takeover, which I think we've all pretty much heard about, in which you reference a DNS record to an S3 bucket that no longer exists. And some more advanced scenario, which was an AWS ASG launch config takeover, where it references a bash script that is in a bucket that no longer exists. Another set of scenarios that I would like to go over are misconfigurations and backdoor that I think live in all of our accounts one way or another, either waiting to happen or improperly deprovisioned, which is like externally trusted IAM roles for our third-party vendors. A common scenario I see when offboarding is you forget to delete everything that is present with those vendors, and you never know what happens in terms of the long-term life cycle of that vendor. Everything from privilege escalation, where they can attach policies to themselves, or a simple administrative role as well. Another one is, you've probably heard it a couple times in talks today, the OIDC takeover with GitHub and misconfigurations related to OIDC. IAM users and access keys, I think I've said that a few times, and I'm sure it's been spoken about 300 times today, something we've spent years trying to remove and reduce, and shared EBS volumes externally. So I just wanted to give a quick demo as to what Cloud Commotion is, which is just basically a simple utility that allows you to apply and plan Terraform from within the repository. So how you do so is you go to the GitHub repository, download the tool and compile it, and it has a list of default scenarios that you can go through. And in this scenario where you're applying this vulnerable infrastructure, it creates a public S3 bucket, a public Lambda invoke URL, as well as a public ECR gallery. Those are just a few items that I selected that are very easy for you to deploy and get ready today. But do understand that because it's written in Terraform, I do want you to take it out and put it in your own IAC, SDLC, or any way that you deploy it yourself. And you can sort of feel free to take those exercises as you choose. So the community and collaboration part, I definitely want to focus on. This, I put an image of, I'm building the world's largest repository of vulnerable cloud infrastructure. You know, change my mind. Is it a good or bad idea in terms of having a tool to deploy it? And I want a community to be able to contribute to some of the experiences that they see within their organization so that others can replicate it and be aware of that. You know, if you need a custom exercise, it's just a matter of editing the Terraform on your local computer, and you can change and customize these exercises however you choose fit. Also, I definitely need contribution for more GCP and Azure ideas that are within there. And it's just infrastructure as code, so please take it as you choose and see if your static code analysis tools can identify and pinpoint vulnerable concerning infrastructure as well. And also don't hesitate to reach out and talk to me about the tool and sort of think about any custom exercises you may have. Also, for sort of the long-term roadmap for this tool, I already have 40 more exercises that are on the way and definitely going to contribute to it more. It's been around for some time already in terms of contributing to it and updating it. So I definitely want to hear more from feedback. Also get long-term community feedback, whether it's just a Terraform repo or the tool to apply it and destroy that infrastructure, and also eventually an open source web application where anybody can sort of spin it up on their own infrastructure and quickly do practices on their own environment. And with that, I will go over a quick, look at the tool itself, in which you can pretty much apply the infrastructure. And you can see some of these outputs, which is like a public S3 bucket with an object that is public, in which you can download that file to your local machine and sort of view it. Demo guards did not treat me well. And then a Lambda public invoke URL, and just a link to a public gallery right here, in which when it's applied, it immediately creates these resources and demonstrates clear, immediate impact on your organization, where you can just quickly apply and destroy it as you see fit and go through it. And with that, I guess it is open source today. Please go ahead and download it and give it a go. Go through some of the exercises for you to modify to your choosing. And yeah, do definitely know what you think. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So I got a question from my phone, as we all do. What license is it being open sourced under?
Oh, that is a good one. It is going to be, I believe, Apache 2.0. I did not attach a license to it. But anybody can download it and contribute it and change it however they choose.
Okay.
I'm going to apologize in advance for this question. Hear me out. When you say the world's largest repository of vulnerable cloud infrastructure code, how do you think it'd be very interesting to me if you could use that to train some sort of AI model to then spot similarities to our own code as a different form of static analysis. And is this the thing you're thinking about?
No, it's definitely something I'm thinking about in terms of building a large enough repository where people can learn and train based on these common scenarios. But I'm not planning to train an AI model at this time to write vulnerable code as much as possible, even though that is a great idea as well. Sort of a chaos engineer, chaos developer. Yeah, that's a good point as well.
You mentioned using it to train your incident response, SOC
yes.
people. But I'm curious, do you have users or customers that use it to test their preventative controls in the pipeline? I'm thinking of highly regulated industries that need to prove compliance. Like they need to prove it. So could this be a way for them to programmatically prove their compliance standards?
Absolutely. And what sort of inspired me to create this tool was seeing tabletop exercises in action and seeing the way that incident response teams will triage certain situations and make assumptions about your environment that may or may not be true. It's very different talking through a scenario rather than it happening in real life. And all the, it's not a perfect world out there. When you're talking through that situation, it's very different than, oh, wait, we don't have logs for that scenario, or it's not in Splunk, or, we didn't detect this because of this particular edge case. And I just wanted to provide a way in which people can test out these scenarios to prove the security program, as well as reaffirm their existing posture. And as for if anybody's used it, I just open sourced it today. I really wanted to get the initial feedback from the community, and I would like to advise you that it is a very dangerous tool in terms of if you go ahead and apply it on your production account, I will definitely not be responsible for what you do.
Great talk. How do you see it fitting in with the other sort of tools in its space, like Stratus Red Team or SAD Cloud and some of those others?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I reviewed all of them, and they're really great tools. I think CNAPGo is probably the most equivalent in nature to what this tool in particular does. But I wanted to create a tool that is written in a language that all infrastructure security engineers, as well as all operations team leverage, which is Terraform, IAC, something that they can take and put in their own platform. A lot of security tools are really poorly coded, including my own. And I wanted a mechanism for people to be able to take it and modify as they choose. And they all have their own quirks and different use cases for their scenarios, such as Stratus Red Team is a really good tool that emulates, I believe, an attacker in your network and performs more active-based attacks. But this is more based on human error and business-impactful scenarios out there. And I do definitely recommend you check out all those tools that I mentioned as well.
Yeah, trying to understand this on the fly here, but trying to put this in the context of some other tools other teams use. So the classic Chaos Monkey is something for the SRE team to do exercises with. Then there's the red teaming things that the security analysts might be using to react against it. Can they detect and respond time? This seems more like something for keep your SOC on their toes. That are they able to, when you call a drill, detect the drill within X amount of time? But how do those things kind of complement each other or become part of the same cultural change? Are there ways in which there are maybe exercises coming in this library, like I think like elastic authorization? Sometimes it's not necessarily have permission to upload a file to an S3 bucket, but you also need to have quota, and there has to be availability in that zone, and there has to be enough budget left on you.
Absolutely.
So to what, but on the other hand, the people responsible for a slowdown in the service or an outage in the service may not be the same people as the incident CM folks. Where do you see it relating to the other constellation of tools, and how could it grow?
Absolutely. And one of the things that motivated me to create this tool is if you go on the AWS maturity model, at the very top right of the maturity model, it talks about chaos engineering. But it doesn't talk about security chaos engineering, where we perform our own exercises in a security context. It talks about operational chaos engineering, which is a well-established industry within the operations team that we're not taking to heart ourselves and testing our own systems by introducing chaos into them. And I definitely plan on adding more modules that go through many different scenarios, but I definitely want to focus on more key impactful issues that impact every business that could result in a breach. But yeah, did that answer your question fully?
That's right. Chaotic security engineering is where we already live.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully all of our jobs are a little bit chaotic from time to time, and hopefully this can sort of prepare you for when those happen, because we often don't have those time available to us to be able to practice what would happen in those scenarios without it being a serious incident where we have to immediately drop everything.
All right, thank you to our speaker.